Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Public Affairs, Public Access. I'm your guest host, David Hutzelman, and this is a show where we talk about public policy and political science issues from a libertarian standpoint. And sometimes I'm asked, what is a libertarian standpoint anyway? And I thought maybe I'd just try to shed a little light on that before we start our interviews tonight. Libertarians are basically people that believe in the free market economy, not the crony capitalism, government-subsidized regulation, corporate state that we have today. And we're also pretty high on social tolerance, and we basically believe that any voluntary, peaceful acts between individuals or individuals by themselves is really not any matter for the government to get involved in. So with that basic overview structure, I'd like to introduce you to my guests tonight. We have three guests here, and I'm going to let them do their bios after I do a brief introduction. First, on my right, we have Carly Durahan. Carly was one of the co-founders of the San Antonio NORML organization, NORML being a National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. To her right is Rocky Palmquist. Rocky is the Libertarian Party candidate for Texas Agriculture Commission, and he's going to be talking to us tonight about some of the issues that fall in his bailiwick. And to his right is Jamie Balagia. Jamie's the Libertarian Party candidate for Attorney General. He's a well-known criminal defense lawyer in Central Texas, at least, and we'll be hearing from him in just a minute as well. But I'd like to ask Carly to start off. Maybe she could give us a brief bio on what brought you to this particular place and time.
Well, I have been working with Jamie for probably almost 3 years on and off as helping him with marketing through being a criminal defense attorney. We met because of NORML. I started NORML because there wasn't one in San Antonio, and basically have been the only person that maintained the commitment and passion and that is required to keep going and staying involved with it. And through that's, like I said, how I met Jamie, and we've just kind of worked together to try to get the word out and get people to let go of that fear that so many people have that keeps them from speaking out. Speaking out for marijuana legalization or decriminalization, or just having.
Have you always been a Texan, or?
Oh, yeah, 7th generation Texan.
Okay.
And I did spend a little time in Mississippi, but
went to college there in Mississippi.
USM.
Okay.
USM.
Very good.
And I have a 16-year-old daughter,
Great.
Who's a very good kid. Just because you advocate for marijuana doesn't mean your kid's going to turn out to be a pot smoker, because my daughter is far from one. Okay. She doesn't smoke it. She's embarrassed that I even do what I do. I think almost the opposite happens when you're open and
yeah, I know my political activities early in my life, but with little children, they were a little bit concerned how all the other kids looked at me. And all. But okay, Rocky, how about you? What kind of a rocky road did you take to get to where you are now?
The school of hard knocks, I think. I'm Rocky Palmquist. First, I'd like to thank everybody and thank you for allowing us to be here tonight, and the good people of Houston. We got a lot of important issues to discuss this evening, and marijuana legalization being one of them. I'm an 11th generation Texan. I still work the same land that my forefathers obtained through the Spanish land grants long before Texas was a state. I'm a farmer, rancher, nurseryman, and pretty much anything that has anything to do with the dirt or growing a plant, that's what I'm involved in. Yeah. And I like to say that I'm probably really the only agriculture commissioner candidate on the ballot that really actually has dirt under his fingernails.
Okay, great. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Jamie.
David, I'm Jamie Balagia. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas. I was a policeman in Austin from 1979 until 1990. I left the police department, went to University of Texas Law School, or School of Law, and started my practice right out of the, as soon as I got out of school. I got out early. I took the bar while I was still a student, and I've been doing this 21 years now. I have lived both sides of the war on drugs. I don't like the war on drugs. I think it has caused tremendous damage to our country. It has caused great animosity between the citizens and the police departments. And now I see that the police departments seem to be doing a lot of the bidding of the federal government, which I disagree with many of their policies, especially their policies on marijuana. And I guess it's about 37 years now I've been involved in the criminal justice system. I have seen no one die from consuming marijuana. I've seen no one personally or worked a case where someone was killed in a vehicle accident under the influence of marijuana. I have worked a number of cases where people were severely injured or killed because of the criminality of marijuana. Drug rip-offs, deals gone bad, this kind of thing, police officers killing people in raids. And I've also seen a lot of people killed because of alcohol and because of prescription drugs, but not marijuana. Yet we still continue to cage our citizens over a plant that any good Christian would believe God put here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I'd like to kind of open up the conversation tonight about there's an issue about whether we should legalize marijuana, whether we should decriminalize marijuana, whether we should regulate marijuana. Maybe I'll ask Jamie to try to differentiate. What do those three words go with marijuana?
Really, when you talk about decriminalization, it's making it an administrative violation as opposed to a criminal violation, just like a speeding ticket. As long as you sign the ticket, you will be released to go on about your business. Then you have to have your day in court. On the decriminalization of marijuana, there would be a fine. In some of the states, it's $25. Some it's up to a $100 fine if you're caught in public in possession of marijuana. You don't get a criminal record. You don't lose your driver's license, which is mandatory in Texas on a drug conviction. You don't lose your job. You don't have to go to jail and sit in a cage. You don't have to lose your ability to have a financial aid for college, which comes with a drug conviction, which is marijuana, and so many other punitive actions which just hammer somebody because of the illegality of marijuana.
So you can have decriminalization even though marijuana is not a legal drug to use.
Correct. On the other hand, to legalize would be just like, and to regulate, typically they're talked about in conjunction together, because if you're going to have marijuana being authorized by the government, the possession of for adults, then you're going to have regulation because you want to have some controls over the percentage of THC that's in it or some protection for the consumer. You want to be able to have some programs to help those that may have some addiction problems. There aren't that many with marijuana. Some studies cite 9%, but those studies are done by the rehab and treatment industry. But with regulation, you'll harm the black market. You'll harm the cartels greatly in their marijuana trade. Because if I can grow it at home, why do I need to buy it from the cartel and continue to send billions of dollars into that industry and the harm and destruction we've caused Mexico? That's all on our backs. We continue to make the cartels out to be bad guys. They would not be there but for us and our demand for drugs in this country.
And are keeping them illegal.
Right. Yeah. Now, children, it's harder for a kid to get a hold of alcohol and cigarettes than it is for them to get a hold of weed right now because cigarettes and alcohol are regulated. So we can regulate it, we can control where the dispensaries are at. It's just a win-win situation because there's not one of us at this table right now that can't score some marijuana in Houston, Texas in about an hour. I'm not from here and I don't know where to go here, but I could find some pot if I wanted to in 1 hour. I assure you, I know that.
Especially with that beard.
All right.
Oh, yeah, let me just touch on one other thing real quick. The gateway argument. that I heard when I was a cop. I didn't believe the gateway argument that marijuana leads to harder drugs. Well, if I have to buy my marijuana from you, an illegal drug dealer who also has cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and who would love to give me some free samples so I can get a taste of it, then you can sell it to me and I'll get hooked on it. Well, that's a gateway. But if I have to buy it from Carly at the government-controlled and regulated and taxed dispensary, she doesn't sell heroin, methamphetamine, or cocaine. So I go and I get my marijuana. That's all I get. Okay. That's how you control it.
We got a caller calling in already. Caller, you're on the air now. Could you give us your question, please?
Yes, a question for Jamie. I wonder if you could make a comment on how the forfeiture laws are being used.
I have a great distaste
what are the forfeiture laws? Maybe that would help our viewing audience.
The forfeiture laws are, and they're both state and federal, they take their pick where they want to go with it or which wants to handle it. But hypothetically, I'm a marijuana distributor. I have $100,000 in my safe and some marijuana. You get a search warrant, you knock down my door, you take my drugs, you take my weapons if I have any, you take all my money, you take my cars, you take my house, you take any safety deposit boxes, bank accounts, whatever assets I have, they're taking. Now, when we used to sit around the round table when I was an undercover officer and we were asked who we were going to go after that week or the next couple of weeks, we would look at who had the most stuff. Because see, when we get to take away your red Corvette.
Stuff meaning money, not
that's
drugs.
Right. Well,
that too.
I'll stay away from that one for now. But I got to drive your red convertible Corvette now because we get to take it away from you. We get to seize your money. We get a percentage of that money given back to our department to use. I've been advocating that if we're going to have drug forfeiture laws of assets, money, property, then they should be required to give 75% of any asset seized and put that into drug treatment and rehabilitation and job training for inmates. If there really is a problem being caused by marijuana, then let's fix it. Let's get these people off marijuana if they're really addicted, and let's get them some training so when they come out of prison, of course, you know I'm against that art completely, right. Them even being there, but if we're going to continue this madness, then why don't we prove that our heart is where we say it is, and let's get these people some help instead of rewarding the military police departments we have in our country now.
Right.
Okay. Of course, one of the distinctions that has come up sometimes in the issue of legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana is the issue of hemp, which is, I guess, a related to marijuana plant, although I'm not sure whether it has the same psychoactive properties. But I know there's a number of people that would advocate that there would be a booming hemp industry for producing whatever rope and hemp oil and other things, if only the Commissioner of Agriculture would see to it that we could do that, Rocky.
It can be done, but let me educate here for just a second. Marijuana and hemp, while they may be related, okay, you go and smoke hemp, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to have a headache from you know where that you don't want to deal with for days, okay? Hemp is probably the most sustainable crop in the world. We can make rope, we can make clothing, we can make oil, and even some kinds of medication can be made from hemp.
But it's illegal to grow it now.
But it is illegal to grow it. But yet, in the state of Texas, you may buy hemp oil from Costco, but the farmer cannot grow this. And what I think we have to look at here between marijuana and hemp, it's not so much that any of this is bad for you, it's bad for the giant corporation's pocketbook. Hemp was never outlawed until DuPont came away with nylon. Nylon rope. Okay, it deteriorates faster than hemp, so you have to replace it quicker. It keeps money in their pocket. The giant pharmaceuticals do not want marijuana legalized because it cuts their bottom line. THC helps with nausea in cancer patients. CBDs, which there is no effect of getting high or whatever they want to call it, that's good for seizures.
CBD standing for cannabis.
Cannabinoids. I'll think of it in a minute. I'll think cannabinoids. Okay, yeah, I had it right the first time. Good.
Okay.
Good. The whole deal of this is it's all about money. It's not that marijuana and hemp are bad for you. It's that the government's making money off of it. This is to support the private prison systems that they have set up. This is to support the giant corporations, whether they be DuPont, the oil companies even for that matter, or the giant pharmaceuticals. If people can medicate themselves, these big boys that control the medications lose their money. This is a giant sham being perpetrated on the American people, and especially in the state of Texas. Hemp, that, like I said, that's the most sustainable crop in the world. We don't need the water, you don't need the fertilizer, and it actually improves the soil. But you're not going to hear that from anybody else because they're all on the take. And as the Agriculture Commissioner, I want to work with the legislature. Let's get the regulations set up, get this in place. We can be growing hemp in 2 years in the state of Texas. And I like to tell people, within 5 years, if we can get hemp and marijuana legalized in the state of Texas, we can get rid of the property taxes. It's that simple.
That's right.
But the big scammers in Austin and Washington aren't going to let that happen until the people stand up and say enough is enough and we're sick of it and not going to take it anymore.
I see. Yeah, I was very surprised to find out that there's an organization whom I didn't know was really behind it, called the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. You all know anything about that?
What a partnership.
Yeah, who's in that partnership, Jamie?
Well, the main players in the Partnership for a Drug-Free America are individuals who are absolutely opposed to marijuana. And of course, they like to bring in all the other drugs because it's always good to bring in the hard drugs with marijuana and group them all together like the federal government has done, so that we are propagandized and we get used to seeing them lumped together so that we believe that they're all the same, have the same properties, the same addictive results, the same damage to our minds, our bodies, our families, our society. You've got the pharmaceutical companies that are involved. Now, the groups will tell you that the pharmaceutical companies are not involved in any form or fashion.
What about tobacco?
Tobacco, and well, although I don't understand why, because now that tobacco has taken such a lick, because it is a harmful, addictive substance that causes cancer and hurts people, and the studies have shown marijuana does not do that. As a matter of fact, people who smoke marijuana and cigarettes have a lower incidence of cancer than people who smoke cigarettes. There's something about marijuana that attacks cancer cells, and they haven't figured it out yet because our government will not let us do the research. They are causing the deaths of more people, not only in their prisons and in their criminal justice system, but just out here in the general public by restricting us from finding out what medical solutions can be given to us by marijuana and CBDs.
I've heard the alcohol industry was in the Partnership for a Drug-Free America.
Absolutely.
I've heard it, and I've also heard the spokesman deny it.
Oh.
But we know there are ways to straw man money into all kinds of organizations. But also, you know, if you look at it from a pure business perspective, who is better situated to distribute a legalized marijuana product and grow it than the alcohol and tobacco companies? They would stand to make money, and they would stand to be able to regulate it. They already know how to deal with the government, sometimes in the wrong way. But I think that we just need the more information, knowledge, truth that is exposed to the American people. We'll start having the system turn around, and we'll start having people say enough is enough. It's like Rocky said, it's time to do this. As a Texan, to know that Colorado and Kentucky growing hemp now, the other states surrounding us, we already lose all of our gambling money to the states that are around us. Now we're going to have our citizens going out of state or leaving Texas to go to a more friendly state to their selected lifestyle that doesn't hurt anyone else.
And you know, we're already seeing that too, Jamie. People leaving the state just to go to Colorado.
Colorado used to be part of Texas. Should have never let it go. Should have stayed a country.
Back when, yes. Yeah, does the idea that both Washington and Colorado have, do they describe it as legalizing or decriminalizing it?
It's legalized in both states.
Legalizing in both.
Colorado's done a much better job of regulating and managing.
Yeah, they were ready for it.
Well, the problem, the politicians got involved too deeply into the legislation in Washington State, and it's in Washington State right now. All the mom and pop dispensaries are starting to fail because they cannot financially support their businesses. The businesses that are making it are the corporations and the large mega buck dispensaries. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. In Colorado, you got mom and pop organizations doing just fine.
That's it. Yeah, I noticed in Seattle they had evidently have some fairly complex regulations and rules for you to open a marijuana dispensary, and evidently only one store was able to open in Seattle. For all the Seattle customers, there's only one place to go to.
Which is going to push the consumers to the black market.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably cheaper on the black market anyway, is what I've heard.
It is, and it's going to be cheaper black market always. But if the government regulations would ease up and let people run the businesses like we Americans know how to run businesses, I believe that people would prefer to get a good product from a dispensary as opposed to violating the law and having to mix with people of perhaps questionable integrity.
I agree. Well, I'd like to maybe explore a little bit about how you guys wound up becoming mainstream politicians in terms of advocating this reform. Rocky, how did you come across the Libertarian Party and get involved with that group?
Well, you know, I was a Republican all of my life. And when Ron Paul came along, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was actually somebody telling the truth. And when I saw the way he was treated in the Republican Party, I just had to tell him, adios. I can't deal with this. You people are crazy. And I started getting more involved in the Libertarian Party, and I started reading the platform of the non-aggression and keeping the government out of everybody's lives and keeping them out of the bedrooms and out of the kitchen and the refrigerator and everywhere else that the other two parties want. It seemed like the natural place for me to go to. I believe in individual liberty. Let people do what they want to do with their own lives. I don't care if they smoke pot naked in their backyard. It's none of my business. Now, if you listen to the Republicans and the Democrats, they're going to want to regulate on what clothes you can wear and how much naked you can be. The deal is, this is America, and we were founded on freedom. And I'd like to point out, the two parties, it's the same coin. It's just the opposite side of that coin. One wants in your pocketbook, one wants in your bedroom. I don't want in either one of them. I want people to be free, and if they want to grow marijuana in their backyard, they should be free to do that. It's nobody's business. And I took a long look and said, who is going to stand up and do something about this? Nobody was coming forward. So I took a shot. I went down to the Libertarian headquarters and said, by golly, I want to be agriculture commissioner. Let's get this ball rolling. I filed. We won the nomination, and I'm proud to say now that we're polling at a full 26% across the state of Texas. That's the best a Libertarian has ever done in this state. And I think come November, that two-party system is going to be in for a real shock, because with people like Jamie on the ballot, people like me and some of the state representative candidates that we have fielded across the state, they're going to see liberty take hold come November. And I think there's a big shockwave coming, because it's not all about the candidates spending money. It's about word of mouth. in the volunteers, in the people getting out there and doing the legwork to make something happen. And that's what's going on right now. And I can't wait for November to watch the tears in the eyes of the Republicans and the Democrats.
Great. Well, I hope you're right. What kind of people did you meet when you tried to make some inroads into the Libertarian Party, Jamie? And what did they think of you?
I was actually contacted by some of the leaders in the San Antonio and Austin Libertarian parties, and they asked me if I would consider running for Attorney General as a Libertarian. And I said, well, let me see what a Libertarian is first. And I took a Libertarian test that's on the computer, and I am solidly Libertarian. I had voted the last
The world's
few years.
smallest political quiz, is that the one
Right.
you took? Yeah.
And
It's on the advocates.org if anybody wants to take it.
surprisingly, so many of the people that I run around with and hang around with and they think like I think. We agree on most principles. I now tell them, you're a Libertarian. You just don't know it. Take this test. Everyone that I know that takes that test is a Libertarian. But I told them that I would agree to run in the convention under two conditions. That my two burning desires are that we would have accountability with our police departments, and that we would change the illegality of marijuana. For the police department, I advocate videotaping of every single police citizen encounter. Not only does that protect the citizen, but it protects the police officer. I used to be a cop. I used to carry a microcassette recorder, and I would have people say that I called them bad names, that I did things, and I would pull out my little microcassette recorder and play it, the whole encounter, and then all of a sudden you were looking at somebody who had been making a false report and an accusation against me that was not true. Now, they didn't file charges against those people when I was a police officer, but I advocate that. Give the police that protection. If someone makes a false accusation against them and they're willing to do our bidding, and that's wear a body mic or have your video camera in your car. I really do prefer the body mic, though, and video camera. Because we can take any employee. If you work as a cashier and they're videotaping you while you work that cashier box, you're not going to steal money. I mean, if you do, they'll catch you. If you're a police officer and for whatever reason you're being abusive or displaying some corruption, it will be caught. A citizen, I as a citizen, if you're violating the law and a police officer is investigating that crime, why wouldn't I want every bit of that videotaped and recorded so that a jury later, and I as a defense attorney, so a jury later can view the truth about what happened, not an officer's memory 2 years later, or, I have clients come to me often and they'll say, this is not what happened. The police report is wrong. In San Antonio, we have video tapes in DWI cases in about 1/3 of the cases. And I can tell you when I start reading the offense report which ones have videotapes because of the wording of the police officer's report. They don't stumble slightly. They're falling down drunk. Then you'll get one that's, well, he made a few mistakes. There's a videotape because it keeps the police officer accountable. It's a win-win situation for society. A recent department put body cam mics on all their officers, and they did a 1-year test. After 1 year, arrest had gone down 43%. Now, people would say, well, why would arrests go down? Well, complaints of brutality went down 88%. Because, see, I can no longer slap you when you're handcuffed or be abusive towards you when I'm a police officer. You know you're being videotaped as a citizen, so you're more likely not to act a fool. So everybody can bring down the tension, and then we'll have a better relationship between the people. I also think that the war on drugs has caused great animosity between the minority and the poor white communities in the police departments. The police departments are not wanted by so many of the people in our minority communities. And I have to say that I was talking to an African-American advocate in Dallas the other day, and I was talking to her about these same issues. And I asked her, I said, I have to ask you a question. With all the damage that the illegality of marijuana has done to the black communities and the police accountability issues and the harm, the brutality, the deaths that have occurred, Why aren't all of the African Americans in Dallas voting for Libertarians? We're the only ones who want to protect the citizens, all citizens. We're the only ones who advocate liberty for all citizens. We want African American Libertarians. We want the Hispanic, Mexican American Libertarians. We want the poor white. We want, I mean, we're the party that still believes in giving a helping hand to our brothers and sisters in the community. I agree with Rocky. And I ask this also, you've been voting for the same Democrats, roughly, the minorities, all these years. What have they really done for you? They've done nothing for them. Nothing. The Republicans, every Republican I know, when I knew them in college, they all smoked weed. What if they'd have got busted? What if they'd have had their scholarship money taken away, or their financial aid removed, or they lost their jobs, or had to go to jail? You know, right now, if you get busted for marijuana, for over 4 ounces of marijuana, and you end up in prison, not jail, prison, what's going to happen to a nonviolent marijuana user when he's faced with rapists and murderers and armed robbers and every other kind of miscreant, violent individual? They're going to be sexually abused, or they're going to join a gang. That's your two choices. And I'll tell you right now, if when I was 20, 21, 22, and I'd gone to prison because of drug possession and was told I'll be anally and orally raped every day, or I'll join the prison gang, I'd have tattoos all over my face today. I would be in a gang. And it's just horrible that we've lost total control of the system. We need to bring it back.
And despite that fact, even if you do your time and get out, you're saddled with a criminal record, and employment becomes a much harder and steeper hill to climb.
You'll be slinging hash over at the Pancake House. That's right. Maybe. Maybe.
If you're lucky.
You're in the
if
system.
you're lucky.
Well, Carly, now how long have you been hanging around with these guys?
Well, I met Rocky today.
What do you think of all this from your standpoint of working with some grassroots, so to speak, normally in San Antonio? And do you see this as a upswelling of some public sentiment for the issue of marijuana legalization?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that Texas has been ready for quite some time. For the legalization. I think the last poll for Texas citizens that want marijuana to be legalized is definitely over 50%, if not like up to 60%.
Is that for medical?
For medical, no, for medical it's over 80%.
Oh, for
okay,
medical,
for decriminalizing it, it's I think 50. I mean, so we're over half of our state that are taking these polls want it to be legalized. And as I've been doing normal now for 3 years, I have no fear to talk to anybody about marijuana, and nobody can out debate me about any gateway theory or anything like that. And what I've seen is people, it's mostly a fear thing that is keeping the people of Texas, mostly these people that think that we're a conservative state, when in I think all reality the people of Texas are not conservative. We're pretty liberal in a conservative political world,
economically, and maybe liberal socially.
Yeah, and
common libertarian theme, I guess. Well, listen, we have a caller on the line again.
Cool
Caller,
deal.
Can we have your question, please, for the panel?
Yeah, I had a question for Rocky. I wonder if he could comment on the state of agricultural regulation in Texas today.
Can we add a little bit more to that, or do you mean with maybe the cattle industry or the nursery industry, or you just want me to discuss it all in one group?
Why don't you tell me what you want to say?
Okay, I'm good at that. You better be careful what you ask for.
Okay.
Of course, any kind of regulation is a burden on business. The way it stands right now, you've got almost everything that you do or you consume is going to be regulated by the Agriculture Department in one way or another. Whether that's your gas pumps, whether that's your the grocery store weights and measurements, whether that's your nursery industries or your farms. The regulations, most of it is pretty much okay, but a lot of it is the wording in it and the paperwork and the bureaucratic nonsense that you've got to go through. The problem I have with some of it is the fact, say you want to grow a flower, okay, and you want to go down on Westheimer and you want to sell that flower. That's going to cost you $125 to the state of Texas for you to grow and go sell that flower. Now that's pretty dadgum stupid. There's really isn't any reason for that. Most of this is just a money grab. This is just a way for the Texas Department of Agriculture to make money off of you. And there's really no need in it. The regulations as far as having some of the crops plowed under at certain times, you know, to control something like the boll weevils, some of the other insects, that's all fine and dandy. But you also get into the Structural Pest Control Board, which is the regulating agency for the pest control companies. And I don't really want to mention any of them. I don't want to get in any kind of trouble. But those are the guys that come in and spray your house and some of that. And those regulations are beginning to get a little bit carried away. And I think we could probably set up a panel, go through these regulations, see which one of them are actually outdated, and probably revamp the thing. I just don't see any reason in the nursery industry or the floral industry even being regulated. We already have the checkpoints on the borders. We know what insects are coming in and what insects are, likely of a problem. But that stuff's already checked at the border, and I don't think we need to be burdening the small mom-and-pop florists and the small mom-and-pop nurseries with additional regulations. When you're having to spend $125 a year to grow one flower, it makes it kind of hard to make a living.
Okay. What do you envision, Rocky, the issue of genetically modified foods coming up in the agricultural campaign?
Well, it's already come up. And you know what I like to tell people, whether it's organic or whether it's GMO, either way is fine. The problem of it all is it's who controls your food. It's not about the food itself. You have these giant megalith monster corporations like Monsanto and Archer Daniels Midland and the rest of these. I can't say it on TV, but these people are controlling your food. And they want everything regulated, and it's happening in Austin and some of the other cities where you can't even grow tomatoes in your front yard anymore. And if people don't think that the giant agriculture corporations are behind that, they really better look, because we're getting down to where we're going to have a big, big problem.
Okay, good enough. Well, we have another caller. Caller, could you address your question to one of the panel members, please?
Hello, this is a great show. I like that the winning, well, say all states legalize, and you know Texas will be the last, but the winning argument, I think, will be is the racial aspect of enforcement, and I like that. But one other important thing, as of February 1st, 2013, if you have, I don't know how cancer patients are treated, but if you have a painful situation like autoimmune and you need a Vicodin from your doctor, you can, from your regular doctor, you can forget that, and they send you to a specialist, a pain specialist, but there are no pain specialists. There are no, well, there are some out there, but they want like $400 up front.
That's because they don't care anything about you, buddy. They care about the money. And I'm sorry that you're having to even deal with something like that. You need to get out and raise hell. Call your legislatures. Call your Senate. You're being taken to the cleaners. They don't care whether you're dead or alive. And I'm sorry to put it that way to you, sir, but that's your government for you. They don't care. They want your money. They don't care whether you're here or not. And I want to say one more thing. Texas isn't going to be one of the last ones. When you have the normal that has come out like it has across the state from San Antonio to Dallas to right here in Houston, you have candidates like Jamie Balagia running as Attorney General. You have candidates like me on the ballot. We're going to make a change. I promise you it's coming. It may not be this election season, but it's going to be the next one. Please go get involved. Don't let these pharmaceutical companies kill you.
Yes, and you should demand the right to have the choice. If you choose THC or cannabis, that's your right to choose. Why should you have to take Vicodin? We all know what Vicodin will do to you. We all know what Oxycontin's doing. Oxycontin is spurring a resurgence of heroin addiction in our country. Where's the heroin coming from? A lot from Mexico. Most of it's coming from Afghanistan.
Where?
How's that happening?
Troops are
We're at war with Afghanistan, I think. We occupy Afghanistan, don't we? We need to ask the CIA about that. I mean, how far should we push this conversation? The bottom line is, what politicians fear more than anything else is losing their cush job. They do not want to lose that. They will hold on to it no matter what they have to say or change their minds. So if we can rise up as a people and start telling these bums, we're going to toss you out of office if you don't give us what we want, they will change. Texas will not be the last state to legalize marijuana. We are absolutely committed to this fight. And every one of us that speaks out like this publicly, we put ourselves at risk. I promise you that. I have already suffered greatly for my position in this war. I'm in the war on drugs. But don't give up on us. And you know, I tell people, talk. When you're at the grocery store, talk to the person next to you. When you see a politician that's against the legalization or the decriminalization of marijuana or is opposed to medicinal marijuana, ask him to defend his position of why a mother can't get her epileptic child the medication she chooses for her child. Ask the politician, why are you denying our disabled veterans who've lost arms and legs or traumatic brain injuries or PTSD issues, why are you denying them the right to smoke marijuana or take an edible marijuana and instead forcing them on Oxycontin or Vicodin? We need to get in their face. The politicians are supposed to work for the people. The people are not supposed to work for the politicians. Politicians that run for an office, Attorney General, what all the Attorney Generals of Texas do after a couple of terms? They run for higher office. That's a cop-out. It's a stepping stone. They're just going to do whatever they have to do to get elected to the next position. We need to put a stop to that. When I was growing up, the Attorney General stayed the Attorney General as long as he did a good job. If he didn't, run the bum out of town. You can apply that to all state offices. I don't think a politician should sit in office more than 2 consecutive terms. He should be required to go out and join the private sector, not the public sector, the private sector, sit out at least 1 term before he can go back into office.
Preferably not with a lobbyist organization.
No, well, that is a government job.
One other point that Ms. Duran, your daughter should be proud that you're speaking up on this subject. That's so hard to find your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, well, that got us to touch on a number of things. We hadn't really specifically talked too much about medical marijuana. I know Carly mentioned that there was a poll that, 80% of Texans are in favor of medical marijuana. That's something doesn't seem like the legislators can ignore for too long when you got 84% of anything.
I watched my father go through a horrible losing battle to cancer. And we would be injecting the morphine into him towards the end. And to think that my father, who was very much against any drugs, finishing out his life on morphine crushed my spirit. And when I think about what our family went through, and I'm thinking, why were we forced to do that? Why? Because of the regulations and the rules and the laws. I would have much rather had my dad taking some THC. And now we've got THC solved that's curing cancer.
CBD oil, Rick Simpson's oil.
CBD oil is curing cancer.
Go to the National Cancer Institute website and it'll tell you the rat studies are showing that CBD is shrinking cancer cells, shrinking tumors, killing cancer cells, shrinking tumors, and can go as far as to prevent colon cancer. Now that's not a marijuana advocate website. That's your nationalcancerinstitute.gov website. So 12 pages of how cannabis is effective.
Yeah, and I guess you read every now and then that there's some parents that are actually moving to Colorado or Washington so they can have the kind of treatment for their kids, whether it's autism or epilepsy or other things.
I'll tell you something that's really disturbs me in Texas. If a mother is arrested and charged with possession of marijuana, and she has a mother, so she must have children, but if she has minor children, in other words, 17 or under in the house, the police are reporting her to CPS, Child Protective Services. Now, because a woman smokes marijuana, she's an unfit mother, but yet the mother next door can drink a bottle of vodka and she's a fit mother. So immediately families are being placed under the control of CPS. The government steps into their home, makes them adhere to a family plan, go to counseling, drug testing.
Which taxpayers are paying for.
It's just, now if a child is being neglected, if a child is being harmed, that's another matter. But that should have nothing to do with marijuana, whether someone's smoking marijuana or whatever they're doing.
Well, if a mother was trying to obtain marijuana to treat her child, maybe for autism or something, is she subject to arrest and imprisonment for that?
Yes, she is. That's a felony in Texas.
But yet you can go to another state like Colorado.
Well, because it's
okay, so even though she's not smoking it or using it herself,
she's trying to give it to her,
but just administering it as a medical whatever for her child.
Now, I'd like to try that case. I'll walk into any courtroom and try that case.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I mean, we can drive 14 hours to Colorado and buy marijuana legally, or say if my kid was having seizures, I would be a criminal to be giving her medication here, but I could drive 14 hours and go live in Colorado and treat my child with a medication that is proven to stop the seizures or glaucoma or whatever. What if my kid got cancer, found out she had cancer? You know, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep my kid alive and give her the best well-being and treatment that I can give her as a parent and with the knowledge that I have. It is not fair to Texans or any citizens of any state that do not have medical marijuana to be criminals in their state, but yet you can drive or move to another state and you are completely in all right to administer this medicine, which it is. It's a medicine, but we as Texans should not be considered criminals and being locked up because they're just trying to take the medicine of their choice.
You know, basically. I think we're seeing this in PTSD cases.
What's PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. That's from our soldiers that have fought so bravely for us in Afghanistan and Iraq and in other places. And it breaks my heart on a daily basis. I'm getting emails from these men. Please, please fight for us. These guys can't cope. Look at what they have seen. Look at what they have been through. And these jackasses in Washington, jackasses in Austin have the gall to tell these men that they can't go smoke a plant that God put here to help them with their problem. Who do these jerks think they are?
Well, we've given them that power, so it's up to us
well,
to take it away
it's
from
time to take the power away from them.
I agree.
There was just a ruling in Arizona where they have medicinal marijuana where a judge ruled that the VA has to allow the veterans there access to medicinal marijuana.
Oh, really? That's an interesting.
We'll see where that
development.
goes.
Yeah.
Well, I know in the state of Texas, when that happens, you know, that they can actually be cut off from their
Cut off
that's
from your
what
they can be
benefits.
completely cut off
That
from their
is
medical
happening.
benefits if they are caught with marijuana in the state of Texas.
And I wanted to mention on like that phone call we had where the guy talked about the pain clinics. Well, those pain clinics are testing you for marijuana, for other drugs in your system. So if you're smoking marijuana, which is helps chronic pain, and they're caught, you know, that's in their system, you're cut off from anything. So then you can't have your, even though you should be, if you prefer to smoke rather than take Vicodin and Oxycontin, but yet you're forced to go to the pain clinic to take Oxycontin and Vicodin for your pain or whatever it may be, but yet you're still smoking pot, you know, and you get tested, you know, well, then you're screwed both ways. You know, you don't get you don't get your painkillers, and you know you're just a criminal because.
You know, I'd like to encourage everyone who has ever smoked marijuana and had a positive reaction or did not have a negative reaction to tell the people around you that these myths are lies. When I was a police officer, would I rather go to a disturbance call where a group of guys have been drinking all day, or would I rather go to a call where somebody said they smelled marijuana smoking next door? I want to go where the marijuana's at. Those guys are watching TV, they're having a nice little gathering, nobody's fighting, nobody's calling me nasty names, nobody's going to give me any trouble. You go hang around with the drunks, there's problems. It's really incredible. It's really incredible. And you know, we just, the New York Times just, the editorial board has endorsed the decriminalization of marijuana. And it said they've called it's high time to end this war on drugs and so forth. And the White House, high time, the White House puts out a statement talking about how using marijuana lowers your IQ, brain damage, you know, addiction, blah, blah. And I'm looking, who lives in the White House right now?
And
Mr. Hot Box
and he
Obama.
did inhale.
And he inhaled plenty. Well, he's our president. I hear he's a very smart and intelligent man. First black president.
Actually, what, Abraham Lincoln and the other presidents have smoked
So it's like,
marijuana?
wait a minute, how can he allow that garbage to come out of the White House when he knows what would have happened to him if he'd have been busted for possession of marijuana? Well, he wouldn't be president, he wouldn't have been a senator, he wouldn't have gone to Harvard, he would have been excluded from all of that. So, which some Republicans might then think that's a good thing, but don't think that way.
It all goes back to money, guys. Follow the money, and you'll see where it leads, and we'll. That's why you know that why it's not being legalized. Look who holds the patents on this. Look, Monsanto's even trying to develop a GMO marijuana strain right now. I mean, it's all about the money, and if we can find a way to neuter these giant corporations, we're going to be a lot better off.
What's going to be the ultimate interaction between once marijuana is legalized? That will the black market go away? Will it be there? Will the law enforcement people continue to go after the black market? I guess they go after black market cigarettes now, right?
The regulators will continue to go after those that are trying to avoid paying taxes and so forth. You have to understand, right now, there are some guys in Texas who grow the best weed you could imagine. They're great at it. They perfected it. They're probably not going to go away. Now, if Texas does things right, those kind of individuals will have an opportunity to supply the dispensaries. But when you just think about the legalization issue of marijuana, I was thinking when I was in Colorado speaking at a seminar in April of this last year, I thought, what would it be like to be a police officer in Colorado, where when I walk up and knock on your door for whatever reason, you're not going to fear me because you smoke marijuana. You're not going to fear me because you have some weed in your drawer. You're not going to be antagonistic because you get scared and it's fight or flight or freeze or, or react inappropriately. All that's gone away. If you have an ounce of marijuana in your glove box and I pull you over, you're not going to take off and run in your car at 100 miles an hour to try to get away from me. You're going to pull over. You're going to have a nice exchange with me, and if your tail light's out, I'll either give you a ticket or a warning, and you'll go get it fixed. You won't worry about me beating you with a nightstick, dragging you out in the street, impounding your car, ruining your future. I mean, we can just bring all of the
and don't leave out shooting your dogs.
Yeah,
either.
that's what I was thinking.
Austin leads the nation, don't they?
Oh, gosh.
Because they, especially when they come to the wrong house, they kill your dog, and it's your fault.
Right.
It's just, as a former police officer, when I think about how it would better the relationships between the minorities and the police officers, that alone would be worth trying this as a social experiment.
Sure, and along
That
with your body
alone.
cam initiative as well for those minority
For their
communities
protection and the
as well.
protection of the police.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would just like to say that it's also very important for Texas citizens to know that we are an anti-INR platform state, which means that we can't petition to put a bill on the ballot. So the only way to get marijuana legalized is through our legislators and through people like Jamie and
Spit it out, Carly.
Rocky. I got you.
Well,
And when we have people brave enough to come out and say, this is what I want to do, we need to at least get up that day and to go and vote, which is November 4th, and make these people part of
Right.
our
I mean,
political process.
basically, just in speaking to our viewers, we have the opportunity to make these two gentlemen's candidacy into a marijuana referendum in Texas. If if they can pull some substantial double-digit or even 50% totals, we can see this stuff turning around real quickly. And quite frankly, I don't know how many people have a passionate desire to vote for somebody for Attorney General or for Agriculture Commission that you think they're going to help you in some way or other. But you could send a message if you're a marijuana legalization advocate by voting for one of these two gentlemen and let regular politicians see what your voice is in this matter and how this issue is an important issue for Texas.
A force to be reckoned with. I failed to mention that earlier when I was asked to run for the Attorney General for the Libertarian Party. I told the individuals that I was speaking to, I said, if I can just get a strong showing, we can at least tell the Republican and Democrat parties the marijuana vote can push your opponent into that office and keep you out of it. You will give us some reciprocation here. You will show us some respect. You will listen to our arguments. You will read the truth in scientific and medical articles about what marijuana really is. I said that if I can just get half, I was joking around in a way, I wasn't. If I can get half of the stoners in this state to get off their couch and come vote for me and vote for Rocky, Rocky might very well win the election. I will make a strong enough showing that we'll have to be listened to, and I will get in people's faces. And when I said, I mean the politicians. I respect the voters. If you vote against me, if you disagree with me, God bless you. I have no problem with that.
I think that would be a great outcome to have in this election season, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Jamie, Rocky, and Carly for being with me tonight and for covering this
Thanks for asking us,
controversial
man. It
topic
takes a lot
for
of
us.
guts.
And viewers, I hope this has brought some new thinking on this issue to you, and we invite you to tune in again next month, roughly the same time, and we'll see if we can't have some other libertarian issues that we can surface and see what kind of public support we can marshal around it.
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, man.